We are at 1 o'clock. Would you like to get us off?
All right, sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August 7th Hanford Advisory Board COE Committee meeting. My name is Lindsay Summers, and I'm the DDFO for the Hanford site. I'd like to identify a few reminders before we get started. The first one is this meeting will be conducted in accordance with the requirements of the Federal Advisory Committee Act. And the second one is each member has a joint responsibility for assuring that operating ground rules are observed and discussions are conducted in a respectful manner. I appreciate your attendance today, and let's get started.
All right, couple of administrative items before we begin. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the Hanford site YouTube page. We take attendance both in person and online. So if you have not already, we have a sign-in sheet near the door. If you're online, please enter your name and affiliation in the chat. And a couple people are doing so right now. Leading by example. Thank you. So we have just a few items to go through today. We'll be hearing about TPA public involvement activities, going over what has been done recently and looking towards the future. We're talking about HAB Outreach and Recruitment. Later this year, recruitment for new HAB members in fiscal year 26 will begin. We'll be looking over a flyer. And then Tom Cecilia will be discussing some draft advice that may be going to the September meeting, get approved. And we will conclude with business. Any words?
Welcome, everybody, to the committee meeting. I'm Michelle Holt, and I am the vice chair of our committee, filling in for Tracy, who had a conflict today. And so I appreciate Josh's support as we move through the agenda.
Thank you. Oops. Okay, so I see I've been joined by Dan, who will be discussing public involvement activities on DAV's behalf. Brian is, oh, you're covering for Elgin.
Yeah, Elgin.
He's the real one.
Fake Brian could make his pay.
Josh, did the group want to do introductions or that's up to you?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that. Of course, I have introduced myself. I'm the executive director for the Ben Franklin Council of Governments.
Lindsay Summers, Department of Energy.
Marianne Waneke, HMIS.
Nicole Caulfield, Athenax.
Jen Colburn, Neely.
Tom Cecilia, Oregon Department of Energy.
Leah Berg, Hanford Challenge.
Larry Brand, Moving Large.
Ryan Miller with Ecology.
Susan Coleman, Public at Large.
Josh Patton, facilitation.
Steve Anderson, Franklin and Grant County Representative.
Chuck Presley, League Moving Voters. Ron Davis, City of Pasco.
And in the corner,
Jane Flores, Time.
and you back.
Anna Calloway, HMS Communications.
So I'm gonna run down the list of those attending online. Is you ready to open your microphone? We have Cynthia Bounds,
Yes, Cynthia Bounds from HMIS. Can you hear me?
Dan Solitz,
Morning, Dan Solon, public member, actually afternoon. Good morning.
Can you hear me?
yes, who's this?
This is Cynthia Bounds, HMIS Portfolio Planning.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. And that was everyone.
Okay. Well, welcome, and we'll get started with our agenda. And agenda item 2 is the TPA public involvement activities. Do we want to start with Dana?
Yes. Please excuse me for cutting it a little close. I was setting up a meeting for the 5-year plan and I got a call back from WSU. So that's why I was zipping in. As you know, we have the 60-day RECRA Class 2 comment period that started on the 20th. Our public meeting is tonight, right here in the gallery room. That starts at 5:30. And then that meeting will conclude on the 20th. And so we hope you can attend. We'll be happy to answer your questions, and that comment period is open. Our next upcoming event is the one I was working on. We have tentative plans for the 5-year plan. our annual 5-year plan. We plan to launch that on Monday, September 30th, and conclude it on Halloween Day. And then I just confirmed October 9th, which will line up with the HAB Committee Week at WSU Tri-Cities. And so that will be very similar, meeting dates, times, and locations with what we've planned the last couple of years. So, any other thoughts or questions?
Dana, I'll just add on that 5-year plan. I think we took some lessons learned from last year and decided to hold that 5-year plan public meeting in the evening, and not in conjunction with the HAB meeting during the day. So I think that will better suit everyone. And just know that those dates they're pretty locked in, but we do consider them tentative until we send out that, the advance notice and launch the comment period, but they are shaping up well. So thank you, Dana.
Any other questions? Thank you.
For me,
Ready for
well, the only comment period that I think we have locked down right now for ecology is the new comment period, which I know Fake Ryan, aka Dana, talked to the Twist committee about yesterday. That comment period is going to be a 45-day comment period starting August 26th and going through October 10th. And just as a reminder, I won't go through the whole thing, but the RD&D permit would authorize the on-site testing of the new system to accelerate permitting of experimental and innovative treatment alternatives for tank-based vapors. So if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with me afterward. Yeah, Tom, do you have something?
questions now?
There's another comment period going on. too.
I wasn't done yet.
Okay.
That was the upcoming game.
Fake data.
Yes.
And of course, I think this is what Colin was about to getting at, was we also, the TPA agency still have an ongoing comment period, which, excuse me, my brain's fuzzy, is September 1st or 2nd? Okay, going through September 1st, that's the holistic agreement comment period that was extended to September 1st. Is originally going to be over, early in August, so that's extended through September 1st. And we did our public meetings back in July over in Richland, Olympia, and Hood River. And for that, I'm just going to a couple quick notes I had just for reference for those meetings. We had at the Richland meeting, and I'm sure Dan has got the more official numbers, but by my count, we had roughly 55 people in the room and 45 online. And over in Olympia, we had about 21 online and 14 in the room. And then in Hood River, that last day, we had about 20 folks in the room and about the same online, roughly. Those are rough counts. Did that track close-ish?
Yes, and at the end of the day, all three meetings, both in person and virtual, had roughly 140 people.
Perfect, thank you. And then for those interested that couldn't make the meetings, the recordings for all three meetings are available on both the DOE and Ecology websites, or the recording links are on there. I think they're on the YouTube for the Hanford site. And then you can also see the presentation slides on both of our websites as well. So if you missed the meetings, you can go back and watch the full recordings. I think that's all the ecology/TPA stuff. Did I miss anything, Jen?
Thank you.
Any questions on any of these events?
One more thing, if anybody needs a little tutorial on where they can find the public information or the public involvement opportunities webpage, I can walk you through how to get there. But they've on the Hanford.gov website where we keep that updated. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you this. We decided we were going to individually comment on the holistic, right? We weren't coordinating. Okay,
Just wasn't time to coordinate.
that's right. So
the questions on these comment periods, public meetings. So for those that attended the holistic negotiations meetings, plural, is there any feedback you'd like to provide to the agencies?
feedback on process or feedback on message.
Say the venue, the public meeting conduction, the process, the information. Is there any in particular you'd like to hear back about that?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Yeah, like content delivery, logistics, our approach to the public involvement. We're always interested to hear that.
Tom,
So I attended Hood River, and I really like the sort of, wall of posters with, up, so if you were more of a visual person, you could go and look at all the different Hanford things that are going on. A lot of the folks who didn't know a lot about Hanford got a lot of value out of that. I recommend anytime we're not in Richland or in Richland, we should have even those posters. They're already printed, just bring them along and put them up and it'll draw people in. The presentation itself was much less lawyer forward, which was lovely. It was much closer to plain English in the level of detail that was needed to have those of us who aren't paying really close attention to understand what's going on. So good job on that, to all involved.
So we have Dan online, and then Susan. Dan, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for putting on those meetings, but the audio, all three of them really was lacking. It was very difficult to hear. I don't know what was going on with the microphone system or their room sounds or what, but I hope you guys can do something about that next time. It's almost so bad that it would call for a do-over.
I was going to touch some of that, but the original meeting I attended in person, the other two I attended via Teams. The Richland meeting, packed room, absolutely great. It was especially interesting, all the people from Walla Walla that came over. What did you tell you? Call your neighbors?
Apparently I did.
Because that was an interesting conversation. And just the fact that people that had not normally associated with the site came out and learned. I love the panels too. If we can bring those to the Spokane meeting, that would be wonderful for especially for any new members of the public that may attend the regional meeting in Spokane. It gives them something to look at and learn about. The audio at Olympia was awful. I mean, it was, when it worked, but it was hard hearing people that weren't sitting right in front of a microphone. So I'm gonna have to repeat, say the same thing that Jerry said. Maybe do it in Seattle instead of Olympia. I don't know. Olympia is kind of like an interesting location. But like I said, that the speakers were great, the content was great, but yeah, the audio made it painful to understand the questions that were asked. And understand the concerns. And then, yeah, Good River to me was okay. I think it was just that was the third day.
Has anybody watched the recording to see how the audio came out on the recordings? Or out of the 3 recordings, do we have one complete set of audio?
Yeah, so they're all complete, they're all uploaded. I will say Olympia is a little bit harder to read, but it's not, you can't not hear it. So I haven't gone back and listened to the whole, 2 hours. If you would like to, it's out there. But I would maybe encourage you to watch Richland or Hood River. If you're wanting to go back and do a revisit.
Yeah, and we know there was specifically in Olympia, that's something that we workshopped specifically for the next day in Hood River, because we had one speaker that was kind of across the room, and unlike the library, because in the Richland library, there's speakers that are above, like all throughout. And Olympia didn't have that. We actually, I think what we ended up discovering was the big issue with the noise and the echoing was the speaker was a little bit further away from the camera and was causing some kind of issues there. So when we were in Hood River, we made sure that one of the speakers like right next to the camera, and then like the facilitator just didn't use a microphone because he was right next to the camera too. So I think we found some of the biggest issues for the audio in Olympia.
When we do stuff at unfamiliar rooms, do we have an advanced group that goes out and ground truths the audio? Or?
We didn't. Obviously, there's cost and time and resources to that, but it's been a lesson learned for us that maybe that's something we do need to put resources into. Because it's a little scary walking into a facility and you're like, I'm not sure what this entails. So.
Yeah, and we did go and do some testing a little bit before the meeting, like a few hours before. Yeah, exactly. But I think some of the issue with the Olympia one was a combination of the seats. So we did testing and walk around the room a little bit, but it was also different when you get people in and some other things like that. But so yeah, it's
go as early as we can.
Yeah.
If that's even a viable location.
Yeah, that was a good lesson learned for us.
Yeah, because I struggled with the Olympia one, hearing the questions.
Yeah.
You know, unless it was like Jerry Paulette who bellowed. And that's his natural style. But it's just, yeah, if you were on the other side of the room or something and not near a microphone, you missed out.
It was a great location for an in-person meeting, maybe not a hybrid meeting. I think what you took away from that one.
But overall, I thought they were great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other feedback on the holistic agreement meetings in the room or online? Yeah,
Sure. So I went to all three in person. Each one was very different. I thought that the presentations got better as they went along. So Richland didn't feel as fluid, but by Hood River, presenting and answering questions was much more fluid, great descriptions and kind of additional details, that maybe didn't happen at the first meeting because people were rusty. And definitely better in terms of like public level explanations, not the very different from what the HAB got. So that was good. I thought, you know, audio, obviously, we've talked about that. I hope that just looking at the numbers that you'll take back, especially Olympia, as, you know, maybe not a good place to hold a public meeting. I know of the 12 people in the room, more than half of them came from either Seattle or Portland. So we were showing up, but it's not an easy drive. It's a tough time of day to be on I-5 going in either direction. So I hope that's a lesson learned for the future too. And then I think we could have had, you know, there could have been 3 times as many people if it wasn't held in July. So middle of summer, it was such a nice day in Hood River. I can't imagine why people would want to be in a basement in a public meeting at 5:30. So just keeping that in mind too. I know it's hard because of things coming out at certain times and you wanting to hold the meeting right, you know, right as the comment period's happening, but just trying to be more strategic in that, you know, when people are back in school and at work, they would probably be more likely to show up than on vacation, doing other things, out and about, nice weather.
And with only a month notice or so.
Yeah.
And 2 holidays,
Mhm.
right, at that time frame as well, with some.
Yeah.
There, so,
Yeah.
noted, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to say I really appreciated how there was extra time given for questions. So the meetings at all 3 were extended. And because people kept having questions, and that was really nice that time was given to the public. And then, I know maybe this wouldn't have happened if the room was full, but letting people ask multiple questions. I know in the Olympia meeting, one of the women that was there just came up with like a list of questions, like, can I do this? Like, can we go back and forth and do this? And like, I just go through my list and you all made space for that. And that was really, really cool. So just wanted to acknowledge that too. That was great.
And on that, I want to add in, the facilitator was great.
Yeah.
He did a wonderful job of adapting to the challenges.
We'll let him know.
Please did. Yes, he was good.
that's awesome. Any final thoughts on these meetings?
Thank you guys for all the feedback. We do appreciate that and take it to heart. So, thank you.
I'll listen to it as I plan for Rev 9 stuff. So.
Next up, Lindsay and Brian together are going to discuss potential outreach and recruitment efforts.
So Marianne has a poster. So Marianne, do you want to go through the poster and talk a little bit about
Sure.
recruitment efforts and when they are kicking off?
So, and Ryan has some of this in his email. He may not have even seen it yet. So all of this that I'm sharing is proposed. I think he's, I mean, we've had a conversation, so I'll pass it around. We have a draft flyer. I've got more here. If anyone wants to take some with them to share.
Their draft,
Huh?
that they're draft, so
Yeah.
maybe not taking extras.
to distribute a clear draft.
Yeah, I mean, if we find any problems with them, but, essentially, I think you all probably know, having been through this, the recruitment process, for terms that would start on October 1st of 2025 will kick off this fall. It is a lengthy process. The good news is we have received updated, schedules and guidance from EMHQ that have streamlined that somewhat. And I think we've seen that in the last couple of years where the packet was getting approved in the, July timeframe, where it used to be like right up to or even into October. So that's good news, even though it's still sort of lengthy up front. They're fixing some things on the back end. So the guidance we received this year, with some of the stuff we have to do up front, will be due, it's what they call a needs assessment, and we look at the overall composition of the board and identify, there's diversity metrics, we're supposed to try and have a board that's representative of the community demographics. And so we look at what we've got and where we might have gaps or, areas that we can focus on. And so that is due in mid-September, and they've told us we can essentially start recruitment on September 23rd. So typically we've started a little early in September, but it's a couple weeks. It's not a big deal, I don't think. My recommendation to the TPA agencies, which again is in their email boxes, is that we run that recruitment period from that September 23rd through November 30th, which then gives us December, shortened month because of holidays, and part of January to do follow-ups, track things down before the packet will be due to headquarters in the first week of February, I believe. So that's kind of how it works. As again, we have a draft strategy, which I'm not sharing today because it is still so very draft. But that we used as the agencies last year to do outreach. And so we have it's like a 4-page document, and it's got local civic groups, educational institutions, health organizations, the Spanish newspaper, all these different places. And we divide that up among the 3 agencies to do outreach. And last year that was really successful. Some of your new incoming board members that you'll be getting to know this fall came from some of that outreach, like Ryan reaching out to Women of Wisdom, or us, reaching out to, not CBC, although we do have 2 new members coming in from CBC. So it's that type of outreach where we're just like, hey, you have this opportunity, or
Are you interested?
we met with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and said, please share this and get it out there. So we will, of course, be doing that on our side. We provided stacks of these flyers last year to the local colleges and to any civic groups. We've added a slide to the Speakers Bureau presentation, not just for recruitment, but just as people from the agencies are going out and doing presentations, make them aware of the HAB and that it exists. And so then when they get the call from us, hey, they go, oh yeah, I have heard about that. We don't want the Rotary Club to be the first time they've heard about it when it comes time to recruit people, right? We want them to kind of be aware and up on it. So that's what we're all going to be doing. And then I think the discussion goes into what else, and I mean, there's probably gonna be things you'll be like this, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that is in our strategy that we're still, drafting. But
Brian has something to add.
Oh, yeah.
So another thing that we're planning to do that we did last year that we're gonna do this year is gonna send out a TPA news release for HAB recruitment. Which we were gonna send, because originally I think that we were gonna start recruitment earlier in September, but like you said, I've been busy, my email is neglected. So that actually gives me some more time, so thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll do a news release.
When you get back from vacation, we can do that.
So we'll send out a news release and hopefully get some interest through that mechanism.
We also do social media posts on the Hanford site channels that, are you interested in, here's how you can find out more. A few of you, I'm trying to remember who I grabbed at the last full board meeting. Those videos are still sitting on my phone, but I'm actually planning to put together a few real short, because, you got to grab their attention on social media quickly, but 30 to 45-second videos of why I have, or something like that. So, because you guys are the ones that can tell the story best of why this is important and why people should get involved. I mean, we as agencies or support staff can be like, oh yeah, it's really, it's important. But if someone who's actually doing it is saying, yeah, this is important and here's why you should get involved, it makes more sense. So those are some of the strategies. Again, love to hear your thoughts and also how we can help you, along with whether it's flyers or, if you'd share our social media posts or whatever, but how can you guys get the word out and help us? Because also last year, a couple of our best leads and applicants came from someone on the HAB said, hey, buddy, my friend, you would be a great addition to this, and they applied. So we need you guys out there, like, campaigning.
Or what else can we as the agencies do to
Yeah.
expand our outreach that maybe we haven't thought of?
Right.
Is there a list of organizations that you're already planning to touch? So that if we see something that's not on there, we can say,
Yeah.
here's a point of contact, here's some, another option.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, CBC kind of came out of some of those same discussions.
Yeah, and that's the one I said is a very draft. I updated last year's, and the agencies haven't had time to look at it yet with everything that's been going on. But yes, we do have that list, and I think we could probably share that and say, here's who we're going to be doing outreach to, who's missing, or if you have a warm connection rather than us cold calling.
Right,
That would be great.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
the benefit of all of us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Within the.
Yeah, we want to use,
We know.
leverage, not
Yes.
use, leverage you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we have those contacts and those interactions. But if we don't know that
Yeah.
you're already doing it, or
Right.
you didn't think of them.
Exactly. So yeah, we can, as soon as I get that, as soon as I'm sure that they're all good with it, I can share that.
Yeah, great. idea. Thanks.
And then you'll see on the poster, the flyer, there's a QR code that takes you directly to the application, the page where it says, want to get involved, apply here. And then there's the same application that folks have, those of you that had to renew this last year know me and knows what it looks like, and Susan and.
Yeah. Another recommendation, that Savannah River, at the beginning of their meetings, or when they're on breaks, they have a scrolling screen thing of just different learning about Savannah River site. And it kind of is the filler during breaks and before the meeting and everything. And one of their pieces is, want to join the HAB or want to join their board? Here's who you contact. So it was right there soliciting interest to the people that are sitting in the room or online. And it kind of, it's dead space anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely something we can look into.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Here in our library would be a good place to put it.
Put some flyers up here. Yeah, we're thinking libraries, grocery stores, I mean,
So the one thing I can see on the poster that doesn't
Everybody's-
say.
yeah.
Volunteer. It doesn't say volunteer. We should make sure that when people know it's a volunteer.
okay.
Because it
Good
kind of looks like apply now for a job at the Hanford Advisory Board.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
Apply for a job that doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Including self-reflex.
yes.
Thoughts? So, are you looking for feedback on this draft flyer?
That too, yes.
Yeah,
There's a couple things to jump out. The logo gets lost and should be more pronounced.
The tri-party agreement.
No,
No, they have logo.
It's there.
Right.
Oh. The picture's so dark.
Well,
Okay, we need to
oh geez, yeah,
brighten that up.
and it is the hat, and then the board has openings for public and large seats as well as local and regional organizations. Might be good, if you are an organization and you're interested, contact this person. As opposed to just sending them the QR code to apply, because the organization might not know what sponsoring a seat on the board means. And they might have questions.
Yeah, good point.
That is a good point.
On the organizational side, is there an update on when the MOU is being updated to represent the number of seats on the board?
So I think there are going to be upcoming discussions on that.
It's, to be frank, it's hit the back burner a bit. I think it's sitting over VPA and DOE, but, and it's not, I'm not trying to use it as the only excuse, but we also had a lot going on the last month or two. It's been a crazy summer, so, but it's
Yeah.
very much on top of the list.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
I have feedback on the flyer as well. The image, looks like it's a public meeting and not a board meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have the round table.
Yeah, and we had that conversation, and I just, for the draft, I went ahead and kept this because
Okay.
the meeting board are it's very challenging with it. Now, maybe if I took one today with the small, like as a committee meeting, but we're in full board, it's actually very hard and
Sparse.
they're not very interesting photos.
I know.
Because it's like a back to heads and there's a lot of empty chairs
We
and,
had a tour and there's some new photos from that tour.
Yeah.
Or what about the 30th anniversary photo?
yeah,
What
I
is the
mean,
group picture?
yeah, the group picture, I could, yeah, definitely.
We also have some community of the whole photos from the other day from all the roundtables too,
Cool.
but that's also just people talking.
I like that better.
Photo is, adding a photo just isn't the right option. You could even try and look at something without a photo and spice it up that way. You just can't find an appealing picture. Yeah, so it's wrong.
Why?
Or maybe we talk to Brent and have a,
Don't bring them all in.
yeah.
You don't want to scare them all.
And I will say, I thought the blurry was just on my computer screen. I didn't realize it was gonna print like that. It just looked like one of those resolution things, like when your screen is sort of. I thought, oh, it'll be fine when it comes out, and I was like,
Stock photo of your public meeting.
yeah. So,
I think Ryan's staff should come up with a caricature like the bird that they're using for permit,
Mr. Crane.
specific for the HAB.
do we have a HAB mascot? Is that what you're saying, Susan? Is we need a mascot?
You know, we do need to bring back hand merch and mascots. We need to have bugs again, you know, like stress balls.
Are we gonna raffle off the Have Survivor mug in my office?
We talked
Annual
about it.
orientation?
Yeah.
Amber has one too.
Oh, does she?
Flashlights, keychains.
So like, when people drop off the board and end up donating that stuff to the Salvation Army and Goodwill, we can have some, people will pick it up and say, hey, what's the have? And then they'll come and join.
That's a big circle.
Yeah. It's a virtuous circle.
Yeah.
Virtuous circle.
Are there other ideas or feedback for recruitment or other feedback on the flyer?
Like, where else would you guys like to see flyers? Where would you go out and like read the boards? We're gonna post like physical flyers.
Social media.
Yeah,
Coffee shop.
coffee shop.
Lots of gyms around here. I see flyers at my gym a lot and I stop and procrastinate my workout and read the.
I think the colleges too.
Community centers that have volunteer.
Like WC Tri-Cities.
Yeah, that's where we got the most traction with them last year was stacks of flyers to like see.
Yeah.
And I will say, especially if you can all put on your thinking caps and help with this piece. We have nobody under the age of 30 on the board. And we got away with it this year, but EM is gonna start pinging us because that's part of the demographic here. So we really hit the colleges hard last year, all of us. And we still got nobody. So if you all have, whether it's in the future, if you're rolling off the board and you've got a staff member that was younger that could be asked to like step up, that would be super, you know, that kind of thing, because not just diversity in terms of ethnicity, but age, because right now we skew a good 50% or more is, what is the range, 55 up, but whatever however they break it out. We also have, not a surprise in this community, more highly educated people on the board, but we actually need more representation from folks, you know, that might just have a bachelor's degree or maybe a high school degree or an AA. We don't have as many of those. And so that isn't considered representative of our community.
And I'll preface, at least speaking for ecology, that's a conversation we've had all the time about
Yeah.
trying to increase those demographics, while recognizing that, you know, it's also tough to fill those spots because, you know, depending, you know, what your situation is, you might not be able to afford to take time off of work or you have kids that you've got to pick them up after school and you can't do like an evening meeting. So that's stuff that we're very much thinking about on how to navigate some of that. And I know, for example, ecology, we've been starting this new thing called like community compensation, but that's for like state stuff and this is like a federal board. So I've already asked the question. I'm still seeing if that's in the option, but it's looking not likely. But there's stuff like that I'm trying to push and talk about, but that is top of mind. So we do know there are limitations.
We also need to hammer home again and again with headquarters that we are a representative board of interests and local governments appoint members to represent the local government, which represents the entire community. So we, by definition, have every demographic in the area covered. because we are representatives of governments. Some of us are representative of governments. I'm here to represent Oregon.
Right.
So, I'm not, you
Yeah.
know,
And that's taken into consideration, Tom. I think what Mary Ann was trying to communicate, and I don't mean to speak for you, is that there are these metrics that we are striving for with the understanding that we have, the HAB is different, right? So we're trying to make it work, and we're just trying to expand our outreach. So if we can hit those demographics,
that'd be great.
that'd be amazing. But if we can't, they're not gonna say, you know what, Lindsay, sorry, you guys can't have the HAB anymore, right? They're gonna say, well,
Well, that's good to know.
they're gonna say, what efforts did you do? Like, show us the outreach that you did
Yeah,
to get here.
and I was told this last spring with a couple of them that they weren't sure if it would get approved or if they would send it back to us to do more outreach for additional candidates because we are way off again on a couple of the diversity metrics and on the age thing. And that's why, like, I use Tom as an example because definitely public at large, that's gonna be really hard to get some, 22-year-old that's like just finishing up their degree or just starting their first job. But if some of the named MOU seats could take a look at whether the person representing their agency could be in that younger and train up, that would help. And so it's just an option. It's not a requirement. It's just if we could think outside that box a little bit.
Mary Ann,
6 people in our division, none of them are below 30.
Yeah.
Marianne, is it possible for, at least for the HAB members or the MOU agencies, for example, to have an idea of what are some of those demographic areas that you're looking for? And also when they look at the board and the applications, are they looking at both the primaries and the alternate?
They are not.
No,
They're only
only for the
looking at the
primary.
They're only
Yeah.
the
Cause
primary.
like I look at my agency and, my alternate who's been on the HAB board for 3 years is 29. But he's not getting counted in that demographic. because-
Exactly,
yeah.
and we actually asked that question because I think we have more on the alternate side. We actually do have some of the, it would have brought some of those up or in the, whether it's Hispanic or Native American, they're there. And so we asked that question and like, no, it really just has to be I don't know why, that's just
Yeah.
that's the mark they set. So, yeah, unfortunately.
But yes, it would
Okay.
help to know where you were looking for some of that as just a prompt for, I could share the love and have somebody else,
What I can do with Lindsay and Brian and EPA in absentia, is when I complete that needs assessment that I'm going to submit to headquarters that kind of shows, here's what we've got. Some of that will include, it's a very strange spreadsheet and it took me a year to figure out how they wanted it filled out and then it got sent back, I don't know how many times. Because you count this, but you count it here and you can't, it's just but it's about who's on the board and who's expected to be on the board. So for example, Steve, do you mind if I pick on you?
Well, fine.
You were in our last year in our needs assessment as someone we anticipated staying on the board. But you opted, you've chosen not to reapply for it, so you'll be terming off. And so that it gets very strange when you look at your needs assessment and say, okay, we're going to have these people because we're making assumptions that current members who haven't reached their term limits will reapply. But if somebody doesn't, that immediately affects it again. And so when I do that needs assessment for this year, it will be on the assumption that, say Larry's going to reapply and Rob's gonna reapply, that kind of thing. And then if they don't, well, we've already borked our numbers, but.
But that is a great example, still using Steve, is that if Franklin and Grant counties realize that looking for a certain kind of demographic, maybe they have an opportunity to bear that in mind while they're making the next appointment to replace Steve.
So when I get that done, I will share that, or I will share a version of it that I can explain better than if I just gave you the spreadsheet of that.
The spreadsheet said we're looking for the more emphasis as either an alien. Yeah.
There's also still debate as to what the demographic of the region is.
Well, they use census
They use
data.
census data for 100-mile circle, which isn't the region. The Columbia goes all the way
Right,
through Portland, and
yeah.
that's part of the region. So, something to think about.
We have,
We can think about that, and in the end, we still sometimes have to do what they say, so.
Yeah. All the
We have a-
headquarter guidance.
Yeah.
a small queue built up. Dan, Susan, and then Steve. Dan, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. If you're going after the younger crowd, and you'll maybe have to do this in the future anyway, is to have a larger presence on social media and perhaps even a bot and an interactive ability to attract younger people. And younger people are I see them on social media, and they're in climate change groups, they're in pro-nuclear groups, they're in proliferation groups. And so to look in those areas that are kind of related to nuclear, and give them a chance. I think an interactive bot on social media would probably be more attractive than a flyer in a gym to that age group. I mean, their lives are happening on their phones, on social media, and so that probably is the best way to get to them. And it's probably something we need to practice anyway. And if you can figure out a way to do breakout groups with I can't think of the term right now, but your pretend image on the screen, that sort of thing, kind of move us into the 21st century. I think would be good for the board, and also good for getting younger people involved, because it's a very gray-headed crowd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, Steve, then Tom.
Two things, I'm gonna do the same soapbox, TikTok. Because the younger generation is on TikTok.
We have restrictions. with
We're not
using-
allowed.
I know, but he does. And so it's kind of it's still an audience to tap into. I understand DOE doesn't do TikTok. I'm just
Well,
going out there.
yes, to that, yeah, we've had that conversation before, so I know you know that, but yeah, and the other thing is we could consider, there's other avenues that are still highly young demographics like Instagram, and I know DOE and Ecology and all kinds of other agencies use Instagram, and you guys actually did a really great video with Rich for the Hanford public meeting, so, and then, who knows, at some point, if TikTok, if the ban holds up, they'll just not be available for any of us in the country, and they'll just go away, but there is other platforms like Instagram and stuff that we can all look at doing together. So that's good happening. So thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, I'm gonna just. And then the other part, one of the boards has non-voting members that are high school students on their board. Kind of like interns, student representation. I only found it out by reading one of their documents. And I found it really interesting because it's like, yes, the city councils have student representatives and different organizations. It's kind of they tap into kids that are interested in science, or what we could do is kids that are interested in science and learning about Hanford, or who got a parent.
Which board is that?
Pardon?
Do you remember which board that is?
Off the top of my head. I found it really unique.
Yeah.
Tell me about that one.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things that I put in our strategy that we need to probably pull out again is the idea of high schools or the local colleges with STEM curriculum. Even if they would give their students extra credit to come to a board meeting, or
Right.
to be involved through the school year, where again, kind of like what you said, but just to sort of start training that next generation that when they get out of school, if they stay here, they might get involved. So, yeah,
The technical as well as the volunteerism.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to hear how which board and how it works.
Yeah. I would love to too,
Yeah.
because
That's interesting.
we did a lot of outreach, especially to the colleges last year, and had that thought with the science curriculum, especially or STEM. But I'd love to see it in the high schools too. And but how do you do that? So
Yeah.
I'd love to know.
I don't know, let me
Yeah, if you
go
find the,
dig through my,
send me the link or something, cause
Yeah, that's something we need that there's room, always room for opportunities to reach those younger audiences,
Yeah.
especially.
I think I called them junior HAB members or something in a proposal,
Something like that. Well, something.
just get them there.
Right, well, and then on our side, this is related but not related, I promise not to go too far off the weeds, but before Ginger went to her new position last year, we were starting to look at the idea of like a like a Hanford Youth Council almost.
Yeah,
Where it was just a good opportunity to get them knowledgeable about Hanford and kind of clean up stuff and to, talk with the college about ideas and stuff. But it was an idea that was just kind of brainstorming, never got much traction because of how much stuff we had going on. But that's something we'd like to pick up.
well, I mean, or if there could be some sort of a, where existing HAB members were mentors to, if we got 2 or 3 and we had paired them up with someone so that they would like, not just be like, well, what am I doing here? And what does this even mean? They would need someone to kind of guide them, and so great ideas.
Yeah, I was curious too about the comment related to STEM, because I do think that there are a lot of community outreach programs, chambers and all of those different places that are already set up to just have that conversation, or our newsletters, or add those things to let people know, because, the ports all have things that they send out, and all of those things that surround us, which is what we're trying to do, reach out to people here locally. And, but, it's a little bit, I love the idea with mentoring with younger students and such, but there's work involved in doing that. It's not fair to them to bring them in, because quite often I come in and I feel like I've been slapped around with all the different acronyms and words and stuff going on, and I'm like, oh my God. So to subject somebody, younger that's not as aware, because this might not be a good thing unless we have some programmed conversation before that. So just having members go to schools, Delta High School, and talking to, and I think that's probably one of the better things that I talked to Ginger about too. And, where else can you go to get that younger generation? She was doing some of that, but yeah, lots of sense.
Is PNL on your list?
Is what?
PNL on the list?
Oh, yeah.
Contact.
I have, I worked there for 13 years and I still have, people. We sent it last year to, they have their Spark group, and they have there's one of my contacts there also is in a women's networking group. So yes, we provided to them, we submitted it to all the local chambers and Kiwanis and everything, all their newsletters. Oh, yeah. It's a long list.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's just Tom and then Rob.
So a couple things. One, I don't know what demographic this is anymore, but Tri-Cities has a fairly active subreddit, and I don't know if there's a way to get the flyer posted on the Reddit.
I love that. I had no idea.
And then
Is it a good subreddit or? I mean, Reddit can be a little scary.
it's a fair amount of, I'm moving into the area, what should I know?
Okay.
Yeah, I follow it too. It's fairly general. They just
Okay.
news stories and
It's
stuff.
not
There's not a lot of.
Place sucks and we hate everybody.
I mean, every Reddit has that, but
No.
not a lot of it.
It's
like
not the
any social
focus of it though, it's not like the
Right.
purpose, okay.
And then there's frequently questions about what's going on site, so.
Okay, that's a great idea.
And then, with this high schools and STEM programs, maybe we work out something on the longer game and give them agenda space at a committee meeting to present a capstone project. So they come in knowing something about the site and present to us about what they learned. And really get really into that sort of stepping up and volunteering and that type of thing.
What about the board presenting to them about what the board is? Like to get started.
I mean, yeah, there could be that exchange, like we'd have to start off the year by going and talking to them about what the board is and inviting them to present to us. But then they can have like, we could set aside a block and say, pick which committee you feel like you want to talk to, and they can work in groups and, yeah.
I feel like I'm almost gonna paddle upriver now. What I'm gonna say is that, I hear what we're trying to do and I understand and that sort of thing, but again, I think that one of the assets of the board is our professionalism and our experience, and the fact that, how do we ever get DOE to believe us when we give them advice? If we have advice that's not informed. And we know right now, we can't have enough committee meetings to inform us on all the issues. So I know that we have the need to diversify, and that's the policy of the DOE. But I'd like to make sure you have people that are interested, not just occupying a position, interested in the site, interested in what we're doing, that are somehow connected to it, rather than random people that don't really know anything. And that we just spend our time educating and we don't make advancements. So I know, like I said, I'm kind of swimming upstream on this, but I really think that the outfits with interests that are the recognized groups, cities, the counties, the clubs, et cetera. Diversity should be within their organization that cares about Hanford, rather than a random person or a person with another agenda or something of that sort. So, yeah, that's just the way I kind of think. I just don't think we should be taking random people. I think people should have a specific area where they can contribute.
And Rob, for your awareness, within the MOU, there are like the outlined groups, and then there's other groups that are added, but those ones won't always be the same. So those can switch out during the different membership cycles.
Right, the organizations.
The organizations, yes.
And are they shifting out on their own, not finding enough people like we had with, not the gun club or whatever it was that?
It depends.
It depends.
Yeah,
What makes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just for an example, we had one group that's no longer on the board. It was Citizens for Clean Eastern Washington, was on the board for a while, no longer. We've added like Tri-Cities Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we have like Women of Wisdom coming on soon. So yeah, those kind of groups is what Lindy's getting at with it. It's been,
Hanford Watch.
yeah, Hanford Watch that was a long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, that was in my day when I was here.
Not too far away then.
Yeah, 2019.
Oh, yeah, I was,
That's when Paige jumped off.
is that one page?
So
Yeah.
there are certain stakeholder groups that do not own a seat on the board.
No, I understand, but, is it the organization that's gonna determine the diversity person that's gonna represent them?
So the
Or is it gonna be fit the DOE guidelines,
so
the old, everything?
So the DOE guidelines give us what we are striving for, correct? Which we have communicated. The organizations, if we have an MOU specific organization or another organization on the board, they are going to put forward who they feel would best represent their organization. Now, we do have additional seats like the public at large. And so those are the seats I think that we're really striving on hitting those metrics.
Okay.
Have you done any outreach to the named seats to let them know the challenge of, so that when they're looking for representation to submit, that they know what you're looking for?
We're looking for somebody in this demographic here.
Right, I mean, it's like when you go talk to somebody over at Pasco City, City Council, do they know, okay, this is what is, it's kind of a no-brainer, but this is what we're looking for.
Right.
That we have this gap. And just so you know, it may not be part of your decision-making, but at least for an awareness, know that you're trying to improve the diversity of the board.
It's not bring me a rock.
Pardon?
It's not bring me a rock.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, if they don't know, then.
Well, I think there's more than enough stuff for us to do in our own swim lane and to talk about group presentations at high schools and stuff. I'd like to leave that up to the individual groups, whether it's Hanford Watch or whether it was other organizations that I belonged to in the past, where we went to the schools to do the teaching. And we got grants from the state of Washington to go off and do that. We got a lot of work to do, even in our own board here.
And Rob, I definitely hear what you're saying about people who are interested, and that's what we're just hoping to expand the pool of people who are interested. We're not looking for, oh, there's a random person under 30 who is also Hispanic, so yay, let's yank them onto the board against their will. I mean, that's definitely the goal. The goal is to make sure that we're doing the right kind of outreach, both as the agencies and as board members going back to your constituencies, get more people interested and involved. So that if at some point you decide you'd rather fish 24/7 and don't want to be here, we've got a pipeline even, ready to go, because there's, different reasons people might not be able to continue down the road or term out. We don't want it to just dry up and fade away because the people in this room or the people at the board meetings are the only ones who are interested or care. We want to build that interest and involvement so that it continues and perpetuates.
So at the end of the day, the department has the responsibility for the recruitment of the board. So what the purpose of this conversation was just to kind of open up that dialogue and see if there's ideas that maybe you guys have that we didn't. So I appreciate the feedback.
Oh, I do too. You can
And
see I
everything,
have
yeah,
lots of notes.
that you
and
shared.
Laura's got lots of notes and we will incorporate those. I will share, when I've got approval, I've got the action to share the list of organizations and entities that we have identified that we would reach out to. And then you guys can be like, oh yeah, I know XYZ over there. Or, oh, did you think about this? Love to have that. And then also we'll fix the flyer and share that out so people can print it and,
We can make copies.
post it in Salem or Portland and see if people want to get involved.
Bring a
And,
big stack to the September meeting.
huh?
So bring a big stack.
We're gonna bring it to the September meeting. We have, we're also developing a poster about the HAB, and we're bringing some other informational posters because we understand that the folks who may attend from the public in Spokane aren't going to be as knowledgeable. And so we're going to have some things there, including a poster about the HAB, and we'll have flyers. And then I will share that needs assessment in some form when I get it approved.
Tom, give an idea.
Yeah, one more comment on the flyer. It's not in plain language enough to be translated. And if we're looking for increasing diversity, we should have materials in other languages.
So I do want to push back on that in a friendly way, that if we go and we recruit in Spanish, that sets the
Yeah.
expectation, we're gonna hold meetings bilingual, and I don't think we have the capacity to do that, right?
Okay.
So, it's something I think we'd love to do, but, and I also, this, obviously DB does funding for the board, but I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm pretty sure that that's probably funding that you guys don't quite have right now for that. But it's just, if we go, if we go and do flyers and like, Russian, Spanish, that kind of stuff, that set the expectation, the meetings are all gonna have all that stuff available too, so. That's just something we want.
That makes
want
sense,
to be
yeah.
mindful.
But maybe something we can talk to, like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and say, what are your needs? How can we expand that outreach for you? Is this sufficient? Have that dialogue when we have those conversations with those organizations.
Amber online, what's the thought?
Oh, hi, everyone. I've been listening. Great conversation. I appreciate all the great ideas, and I just wanted to say, Lindsay, I think that's a great idea. I think talking to the Hispanic Chamber about what are the needs, what would help engage folks in their chamber and in the community who are bilingual or multilingual. So, before we just decide, well, this is, but I do agree with Tom that we should keep striving in general for all the Hanford materials, right? That are produced to be in at least Spanish as well as English. But I think talking with the Hispanic Chamber folks about what type of recruitment materials or what kind of things could make us more accessible and inclusive is a great idea. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Any closing thoughts on this?
Is it possible that a social media template kind of is developed that the different organizations can then take and tailor it and shoot it out to their membership on their social media page, or emails or whatever?
I don't know so much a template, but we're able to,
Not sure whatever graphics we have and they could share.
share the
Yeah.
posting.
We could share the post.
A blurb.
Yeah,
That we can put in our newsletters.
I mean,
yeah,
it kind
like
of,
a
it's
blurb and a
like,
graphic.
something's already produced, and like Michelle gets it for her organization, which includes a very large representation of the community. She just can
Yeah.
tailor it to whatever media she uses.
And I think too, where my red flag just went up is the Taylor, because we have such, and I'm gonna, because like Jen is one of my social media pervers, we have such specific clearance and different processes that it worries me to hear like, we're gonna send you something that's been cleared and then it gets changed and then,
No, I understand.
so
Yeah, no, I understand.
we can workshop this.
If it's a non-editable picture that includes
Right.
logo and text.
Absolutely. It's
Exactly.
just, it was,
And then
just the word
you can
Taylor.
add your you know, the title and,
Yeah.
you know, kind
You
of.
can add a preamble
Yeah.
to say,
Yeah.
hey,
Absolutely. You understand where I'm coming from.
And you
used to
understand,
work there. You know.
I understand where you're coming from.
Well, and, you know, related to separate, I know, you know, some folks, you know, calling, me at Hamper Challenge specifically, they make HAB posts to share information about meetings, which is super
Yeah.
awesome. So I think those are fantastic.
I'm
Yeah.
planning on sharing.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on this? Thank you, everyone. I think we are on time to break for break. We will be returning at 2:15.
Lunch.
I saw no one come.
Microphones are open again. Clock says 2:15. Tom, are you ready to discuss advice?
sure. So start off by just giving a quick overview of where the HMA team of three parts is in our process. Went back after last meeting and made some extremely minor tweaks to the advice to clarify what type of public comment periods were the advice is referring to. The resource list of past HAB advices and seeing if we need to do anything else. I sort of on hold for the summer. The list is out there. If you're interested in getting a copy of all the HAB advices over the years that have dealt with public engagement, we can send that out to you and you can join the team. Or just learn. And then the sort of HAB University YouTube list is still a work in progress and is on hold as well, but keeping it alive because it's still an idea that has energy. And we'll figure out a way to compile that and bring it back in without having it hosted officially by DOE. Okay, so the advice, if we want to put it up on the screen. I've been on the board for a couple of years now, and it's the shortest advice I've ever seen. So,
It's very succinct.
yeah, well, you know, economy of language, was sort of the key for this one. The idea is that, you know, there's, in order to build trust that public engagement and responses are being heard and acknowledged, the board is asking TP agencies to publish and respond to in some form any advice received during a comment period. They don't, there's a comment period that isn't called a comment period, and maybe you can help me. Feedback, the public feedback period. You know, if you're gonna hold a period, it should have a follow-up, complete the cycle, show that voices are heard, and also let other folks know how many comments are coming in. If there's a public feedback period that gets, you know, 6,000 responses, that's worth knowing that there's a lot of energy on that topic. That is a data point that isn't out there right now. So yeah, it's less than a page, and if anyone has questions or suggestions or strong feelings, let's talk about it.
Are there any strong feelings?
I would just feel.
Yeah, feelings are good.
Lukewarm feelings.
Feelings at all, yeah.
Wordsmithing edits.
No, I think it asks exactly what we we're asking of them, which is to communicate. And put it together.
I feel like it's very clear. Jen, you weren't at the last meeting. Do you have anything to add? Any feedback from the CEO's perspective?
No, I just came today just kind of being a listening mode. I don't have a perspective. I did appreciate how short it was, but I opened it to read it and I was like, oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you. And we look forward to receiving, your advice officially. Thanks.
So the question is, do we have consensus out of the COE to pass this to September's board meeting in Spokane?
I see some thumbs up. Does anyone object? Everyone live with it.
That was-
Sounds like consensus to me.
That's gonna be 3 pieces of advice and the work plan and the calendar. That's gonna be crazy.
Where are all the advices? It's this one and
Alternate.
that's right. Okay, thank you. Sorry, my brain's.
So,
Moving right along.
alright, so we are jumping well ahead on the schedule, right to committee business. And figure out the middle there. So in June, there was a leadership workshop held in which the committee leaders had a chance to look at the work plan, make suggested edits. And we have the results available today. In the case of CUE, there were very few edits tonight, by recollection. However, I will bring those up for you to see in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. Nope. Both in the room and online, we have each of the proposed items. Those include items that have potential actions associated with them. Could be advice or sounding board or some other board product. And then other items that will be primarily for informational purposes. In the CUE's case, these are primarily actions.
So it's a pretty ambitious work plan for FY 25, but we're excited to work with the COE.
Tom, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I just, based on the conversation we had earlier today, where it's Energy's responsibility to recruit for the board. I'm wondering if member recruitment and retention should get tweaked, because the COE isn't developing a strategy to encourage members to recruit, because it's DOE's responsibility to recruit, right? So are we advising DOE on how to recruit, or are we helping DOE recruit? But we're not developing the strategy.
To encourage members. So the strategy would be to encourage your peers to help with that outreach to recruit and retain candidates for the HAB. Because some folks come on, we had a couple of folks at the new member orientation, we haven't seen them since. So
They resigned.
So
what type of strategy can the COE come up with? And we could take recruit out and just put retain. But I would like to hear from the COE, what are some best practices? And what's a good strategy that we can implement or the HAB can implement to retain members?
what about discuss strategies instead of develop a strategy? Because a strategy is a work product that we're gonna give to DOE and say, do this. If we have an open discussion that you guys can take notes on, that's really what we should be doing.
I think the strategy would be you guys developing a plan that you would implement as the board. Here's a strategy we're going to do to supplement what DOE is doing to help recruit. I believe that's where Lindsay.
I don't know if we're allowed to do that. That's not.
Well, it's just like the conversation we just had was like,
Well, we can't develop a formal plan. That's not in the HAB scope.
So how about retain? If not, we can take it completely off the work plan
Well, I
if
think-
there's an issue with
If
it.
we put it on as discuss strategies instead of develop a strategy, because I think a really cool thing to do to encourage people to recruit is have tchotchkes, and if you recruit someone, you get a tchotchke. But that's, it's not gonna happen.
We can't make that a strategy
I know.
officially, but yeah, that's fine. I mean, if
So,
you,
if we change it to discuss strategies instead of develop a strategy, I think would make my brain happier.
I can live with that. Ryan, any thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I think discuss or support are probably better options for that one, because like you said, I think it's a TPA agency strategy that Mary Ann shared earlier, and we're looking for feedback. And support with, support reaching out to folks and stuff, but like I think we just discussed, it was kind of the TPA strategy for recruitment, but so I think that
Yeah.
works fine, that or support.
That does still allow for the flexibility of doing something more proactive in terms of retention.
Right.
Right.
And having that discussion.
And maybe that retention is, a buddy system. I've heard folks talk about a buddy system when people bring the HAB, just because it is sometimes information overload. Is there something that they can be partnered with to, reach out to or to ask questions to? I mean, I think that would be really great to see that implemented.
I feel like the best way to retain people is to have meals with them and have informal settings and share, break bread and have conversations instead of sitting around a table like this. So I'm always part of the academic club.
This is a
But that's
real
stress.
problem. To just have DOE extend our appointment period. Give us 3 years as opposed to 2 years. Or something that really bothers me about the fact that the system plan now is only gonna be issued every 6 years. Okay? The person nominated for his first 2 year is just, they're gonna have no impact on the system plan. They don't have that ability. The period is so short for the appointment. And that's so, and 6 years is a long time. Granted, every other year or every year is pretty onerous job for the DOE, and now that we're so many years into it, but if the time periods don't match up, then there's a problem.
Dan,
Thank you,
yeah,
Ryan.
so let's have some thoughts on the work plan. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I think DOE is asking us to do is to form better relationships with the communities that have an interest in what's going on at Hanford in order to support the budget that Hanford has and the increase in budget that Hanford is going to need. And that's going to require some investment on DOE's part to get that rolling. And if the COE had a budget or there was money available to expand its presence in the region, that would be very helpful. And there are many ways to expand that presence if you have a budget. And so I just think this is kind of talking in a circle and talking to ourselves unless there's some resources that DOE is willing to put behind it. Thank you.
Yes, so then I think you're talking about the top bullet. And we were talking about the fifth one down, but yeah, they're similar. They're both developing strategies, so maybe those should both be discussing strategy.
We're really looking like, what is the best way to retain HAB members? Like, what can the HAB do? What can you guys do? Specifically to retain members on the HAB when folks come in and they're like, whoa, this was too much. This was, too many meetings or too much information, or they didn't feel welcomed. Like, what can we change? What kind of strategies can we implement? Like, Susan brought cookies this week, I've brought cookies before to somebody else wanted to bring brownies, you know what I mean? Like, maybe you guys have a sign up sheet and folks kind of take turns bringing baked goods or something that makes people feel welcome. So what is it, like, what does that look like? And I don't have that answer for you. So that's really where we're trying to tap into your own expertise.
I think the best one is the professionalism of the presenters to us. Yesterday, past presentation was all convincing. There wasn't, there wasn't a dry in the house. No. But the point is that I looked around and people were riveted to what he was saying. Okay, and it went so much in line with the testing. Both those together, and that was a quality meeting, and I think that would bring people in.
It really does come back to, is the agenda with attending the meeting for someone who isn't heavily invested in the board yet? If the agenda isn't in captivating, and then we're getting better with that. But that's really what gets people here, is it's not navel gazing, it's not re-evaluating the HAB procedures and over again, and arguing about demographics and term limits. It's learning and advising the cleanup mission. And if we can get more focused on advising on the cleanup mission and getting presentations, which we're getting again, which is awesome. If you have a good agenda, they will come.
I believe that, and I think by the way, you're doing such a great job. You have found some really good people to come and give us, so I'm not criticizing any of that. But just the experts, when we hear it from them, they really, Matt Irwin, perfect, he really related to us. Jason yesterday was a great talk. You go back to Carthage, Submarian, he's a good speaker. You understand what they're saying, and they're honest in what they're trying to present to us. They're really trying to go out of their way. So having those cadre of those really good people out there is, and then I can put my trust in him. Okay, I think everybody here put their trust into Pat, that he was really working hard to make it come out right. Okay, and I don't know if somebody else wants to share that too, but I just,
I like Tom's words. Discuss strategies, plural. There isn't any one way to do it. There's all kinds of different ideas that we've all experienced, that we all bring to the table. And the second piece is develop a strategy to me reads as produce a product, which means a lot of time and effort as opposed to a brainstorming session, where we all bring our ideas to the table and see what sticks. And it may be half a dozen different things that, theoretically, does become maybe a momentary strategy, and it may evolve. But it's not a product that goes on the shelf that we're gonna spend 6 months putting together.
Maybe we put on agendas pre-lunch, have a moment to discuss who's going to lunch where, and, the community is what keeps people here. The HAB is a family, it's a community, it's not,
And everybody's different.
Yeah.
So it's like what is important to you, or that you've had experience with, may be different for Jen. She may have a completely different idea, versus Michelle. And so to me, it's plural strategies, ideas that we're all bringing to the table. And it may work for different people, or it may not work, or it may work for everybody.
Could it be like a white paper? Could it be like, because that's what I think the department's perspective was looking for. We're looking for something tangible, something we can take a look at and say, hey, this is what the board expects to do. So it's, I don't want to say memorialized, but it's there and it can evolve as the board continues to evolve.
It could. I know Ryan, you keep on getting jumped.
Oh, you're fine.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, don't worry about it. You're good.
It might be something that we have a work session resulting in a sounding board or something, as opposed to a formal white paper.
Absolutely.
Just a brainstorming session that we have a whiteboard on and call it, here's some ideas that you could try.
Perfect.
My only major comment was, and I think we're actually getting back to it, was I think we're starting to have a really good conversation about like the specific strategies and recommendations versus talking about actually developing the work plans. I think we're getting into the work plan topic versus talking about the work plan topic to go on the work plan. But I think that the last Susan and Tommy, we were circling back next, so that was my only thought.
I do a point of clarification. I did notice in this work plan that, we have the environmental justice initiatives and the advice, which was on the last work plan as well. We've kind of been working on that, but I don't trust my memory, and I felt like there was another item from the current work plan that was more advice related, something that, was it the risk and?
Yeah, the risk is a joint topic with this one.
Okay.
Yeah, hands on.
Scroll down. You get.
And that one just said discussion and action versus advice, and I was feeling like there was something that we were asked by the agencies to look at more of an advice level last time.
Yeah, it should be advice probably.
And that is something that I am looking at framing. So, I apologize for the delay. It's taking a little bit longer than
Which
my
is,
team originally anticipated.
but on the work plan, that should be advice, not action.
Was it?
For risk communications and strategy.
Yeah, so it's, advice up top. So
Uh,
Josh, can you just make a note to make that change?
And I appreciate the clarification on the environmental justice that it's specific to the ecology community engagement plan, which is still happening this year.
Yeah, well, the last I heard from my headquarters is that we're trying to get the community engagement plan wrapped up by the end of calendar year or beginning of next calendar year, but this is for the fiscal year, which goes through, next October or whatever, so. Unless barring some 8-month delay, I think that should still be on track. And I think the other idea is we still have the overall EJ initiatives as the grander topic. That way there's still flexibility of if DOE or EPA are ready to come talk about stuff too, that it can be more than just that if it comes out. So, but yeah, we wanted to add that on there specifically because that was kind of where the specific request for advice is at right now.
It's like a random question.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other thoughts on this work plan before it goes before the board in September?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dan, go ahead.
Some more detail or precision from DOE in what they expect from the board, or maybe expect is the wrong word, but what would be helpful to them? What exactly are they looking for in terms of input from the board and advice from the board in a little bit greater detail and areas where the board is struggling, or not the board, but where DOE is struggling in terms of which direction strategically they want to go, or and bring that to the board, and then the board will be more effective in helping them. So if there were a more back and forth in that particular area, I think it would be helpful.
Thanks, Dan. So what you'll see on the work plan is it's pretty broad, right? It's not very detailed, and that was done intentionally to give a little bit more flexibility in the planning. And so in the planning phases, when we are looking at framing briefings and developing agendas for the meetings, I don't want to speak for Ryan, but the department anticipates working with the chairs and the vice chairs to communicate what we have that we are able to bring and ensure that we are answering the questions that the group has.
Dan, you had a great question about, what DOE wants. So I'll just say for what the agencies are requesting and hoping for, if, Josh, if you scroll up to page 6, real quick, stop page 6. Which would be the next one up. But we have the TPA, joint requested advice / action list. So that's kind of the specific list of advice and or actions that the agencies are requesting from the HAB. Obviously, the HAB can produce advice outside of this list. Is, there's a couple of pieces of advice right now that are outside of the list from the last fiscal year, but this is the agency requested list. That's it's either in the OGR or MOU that it was a commitment for us to do. We started doing the last year or two again, but that's where the agency requests are at on the work plan.
Okay, that's really general. If they could be more specific in that list and more detailed, it would be helpful.
Thank you, Dan.
One of the comments that I asked about, I believe during the leadership workshop, was definitions. of advice versus action versus informational, so that people don't confuse action and advice, especially. But I'm a definition kind of person. It's like, because everybody has different things in their heads.
Yeah, I think that's something that maybe we missed on the edits, because there's a lot of edits in June, so I think that one might have just gotten missed, because you got
So
some.
it is one that still needs to be addressed. Yeah, no, it's still on our,
Yeah.
still on the
Thanks for
radar.
reminding me. I wrote down.
Yeah, the just earlier discussion about white paper versus discussion versus.
No, that'd be good to
Triggered
include.
me.
Yeah,
I-
no, that one is still on our list along with the, and I briefly talked with Brian again yesterday about the committee of the whole and adding the caveat about the TPA agency's commitment to hosting 2 committee of the wholes for FY 25. With the topics and dates to be added at a later date. So 2 things that I would anticipate that you see change before September.
In September, did we make sure the calendars as safe from all of the different workshops and whatnot as possible? I know we've talked about that, but
As much as we possibly could. So,
ECA would always get announced a little later in the year, so.
if there's something that gets added, I think that it would be appropriate to take a look at it at that time. If there's huge conflicts that would not allow several members to attend, I think it.
I
We can be
think, yeah, and I think as of now, we've forecasted as much as our lens will take us unless we did miss something. So if you guys catch anything that we missed in the next month that is a big major meeting, then please let us know.
But we're doing our best to not change anything. Like on the calendar, like we're anticipating hosting the EMSSAB chairs meeting here at the Hanford site the week of April 20th. That's not confirmed yet. So as soon as we have confirmation on those dates, then that will be added to the calendar. I don't anticipate that's going to happen before the board meeting. Probably after the next chairs meeting, we'll have it all confirmed or like firmed up and then can continue on with planning, but we'll make those additions then.
I'm gonna just say it again. I still have angst about September.
Well,
Because
that's,
it's like I'm hearing now about all kinds of conflicts with this September's meeting. That September just, we moved out of September 2 years ago into August.
for the
Because
full board.
for the full board meeting, yes, sorry, because there were so many conflicts in September. And so going back into September, and like I said, I'm hearing from different people of conflicts coming up in September.
We just need a quorum phone tree, so if it comes down to it, we can call people and get them online, so.
Well, I hear what Susan's saying too, is that even with a quorum tree, we'd still love to have as many people there, so we don't even have to worry about quorums. But that's a very real, concern and thought, was because September is a pretty tough month, but
I think August is challenging as well because of vacations and back to schools and things of that nature. So I
Right.
think it's like, yeah, kind of pick one or the other.
that this region of the year is pretty tough overall. But yeah, because I know last year we held the board meeting in August on my birthday. And then in September, there's still meetings in September last year. That was the committee meetings in September last year. Okay, so.
But yeah,
Maybe,
and the year before, I remember listening to Gary and Ruth just frustrated trying to deal with all kinds of senior management conflicts among all 3 agencies and
Right.
the board meeting. So I just,
Mr. Vance will be in attendance in September.
outside the scope of this discussion, but it might be worth considering in the future, doing orientation in front of a full board meeting in October as opposed to September.
like we did your first year.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
The
that worked pretty
orientation,
well,
and then the full, went right into the full board
Because
meeting.
people got a chance to dive right in, but,
Yeah, so maybe that's something we look at the next go around.
yeah.
I'll take a look.
So the last item on our agenda is discussing the next meeting. In the case of each of the other committees, this discussion was deferred to the next ESC call. Do you feel like that's appropriate for this committee as well?
That would be great for,
To talk about what's gonna be at the
Yeah, for
That's great.
the October 9th.
I'm sorry, Michelle. I have
At
nothing
this
to
point.
equal to that.
I was on vacation last week.
Carmen is done. Oh, bro.
I apologize.
Just clarification.
That's true. Right there now.
I would be amenable to that, yes.
And is Amber, since Amber will be the chair in
Amber.
1 October.
Amber has logged off, so I do think that is a good path for her.
Thanks, Joe. That sounds great.
If you could just capture that.
I suspect.
I mean, conflicts are among the people here, with regard to some type of meetings.
Yeah.
Could ask, who can attend the current scheduled meeting next month?
On September 10th and 11th?
I think we're up to 4 travel requests being put in. So
My primary is gonna be there.
Yeah, I got mine in, or it's in.
we don't get a travel request for you, so that's fine.
I won't be.
Are you gonna be cruising?
Mhm.
Where to? Okay, fine,
Oh,
we'll
so-
allow it.
So you have a cell phone?
Satellite phone, maybe?
So I
I
was
could be
my
on a
alternate on the
big
10th.
line, or I could be doing.
We're
something
hosting a meeting here.
Okay.
So, I will work with my alternate the 10th and I will be on the other.
Still.
Did we hear from anybody at the committee meeting yesterday of who's planning to go to them?
Both OHCP members are gonna be touring Rick, so they'll be remote if needed.
So, on the subject, most people in this room, and I heard this yesterday, but there is a room block set up for the September meeting in the same hotel the meeting is held. If you'd like to book at that hotel, the deadline is August 10th. You can find a booking link and phone number and room code all on the last night happenings, along with the travel request forms. And that will show up again, and this week's app happenings to be issued tomorrow evening.
Good, thanks, Josh.
Are there any other comments, thoughts, needs before we close out? See what we need.
Thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.